So I'm riding today in sunny Northern California. It was over 100 yesterday. Probably get up into the 90s today. In other words, kind of normal summer weather for Northern California. So the question is, what kind of weather can you expect in France next summer? So one thing that's going to be unpredictable about your ride next year is the weather. So what is the weather like in France in August? Well, I can tell you my experience from the last 3 editions of PBP. I've been rained on every single time, more some years than others. 2007 was definitely the worst. We had steady rain for almost the entire ride. It was pretty awful. The rate of abandons on that particular year was about twice what it usually is. The other 2 years got rained on from time to time, just a little bit in the last edition in 2015, but still rain every time. Now other than that, you can generally count on warm temperatures in France in that time of year, although it has been hot. Now, I have not been there in a hot year, but Bill Bryant of Randonneurs USA reports that in the late 90s it did get quite hot. The Americans generally, he said, were more prepared for that hot weather than the Europeans were, although they seem to do better in the rain. And one note about temperatures, in the last edition in 2015, it actually got fairly cold. I mean, not really cold, but down into maybe the 50s at night, especially on the first night. And a lot of the European riders were finding that very hard to deal with. Now, I do brevets up here in Northern California, which is where I am right now, with mostly the San Francisco randonneurs. So you'll tend to get a pretty wide range of temperatures on their rides. It can get quite cold in the Bay Area and then quite hot on the inland parts of their rides. So that's good training, and I would definitely recommend that if you have the chance, you should go out and train in various conditions and do brevets in various conditions. You know, do a brevet, do a 300 or 400 in the rain, even a 200 if that's all you can do. You know, get used to riding in those conditions and see how your rain gear performs, see what you're going to be best carrying and wearing on PBP. So I guess the message is to be prepared for anything. I mean, definitely, as the ride starts to get closer, you need to be watching the weather sites, looking at what the temperatures are, seeing if there's any rain coming in, and definitely pack clothes that are going to equip you for the range of conditions that you're likely to face on the ride. Now that might include regular, polyester, synthetic jerseys like I'm wearing right now. Some people like wool. I like it. I don't particularly like it when it gets warm, but wool will do you well, in cool temperatures. Some people like it in the heat even. It also keeps you warm when it's wet. And there is a, kind of an ongoing debate out there whether, if it is raining, if you should be trying to protect yourself from the rain or just dealing with it by wearing wool. Because I can tell you from my experience, there is no rain gear out there that keeps you dry. If you keep super dry, you're going to start sweating on the inside. Anyways, there's nothing out there that will keep you dry once you're out in the rain. You may stay drier, but you won't stay dry. Clothing recommendations then, again, depending on the temperatures, synthetic or wool jersey, probably some arm warmers, knee or leg warmers, some gloves, perhaps some rain gear. You might want to think about wool socks. They have a couple advantages. They keep you warm if they get wet. They also don't stink like synthetic socks will. It's another plus to wool clothing, actually. And speaking of rainwear, one piece of rainwear for your bike that you might want to think about is fenders. Now, the bike I'm riding today is like most of the bikes I ride. in that it has fenders. It's kind of a classic randonneuring machine. I like fenders. I like the way they look. Like rain gear for yourself. They won't keep you dry in the rain. They'll keep you drier. They'll certainly keep you cleaner, because they're going to keep the rain and the dirt and mud that's on the road from splashing up and hitting you. And once you get out on some of those country roads in France and you're in the wake of a pig truck or a manure wagon or whatever, you will be very glad you had fenders to keep all that schmutz off your bike. Back at home off the bike, hope you enjoyed this edition of PBP Tips with some thoughts about the weather that you may face over in France next year, and some choices definitely to be thinking about now for clothing and equipment on your bike. If you have any ideas for topics you'd like to see covered in future editions of PBP Tips, let me know in the comments down below. Looking forward to reading those, and I'll see you in the next edition, and hopefully see you on the road, and hopefully see you in France next year. Bye.